The secondary component to that, to actually make her obsessed, is to, as fast as possible, get her to realize that these guys both have six packs, they are both ridiculously wealthy, one of them lives in Dubai, have exotic cars, they are the highest social value person they know, and are still not getting what they want when it comes to relationships. Here's the reality. You attract the kind of woman based on
how do you make a woman obsessed with you as a high-value man?
How do you make a woman obsessed with you as a high-value man? So a lot of my private clients are incredibly successful guys. I've got one of my clients right now is doing over 500 million a year. Another one of my clients is doing 200 or 300 million a year. And they're all ridiculously high-value guys. And what I love about this is social media has you believe that if you're wealthy, good-looking, high status, rich, basically, it's really easy for you. These guys both have six packs. They are both ridiculously wealthy. One of them lives in Dubai. They have exotic cars. They are the highest social value person they know, and are still not getting what they want when it comes to relationships. Here's the reality. You attract the kind of woman based on how you present yourself. So if you present yourself as wealthy, you attract gold diggers. If you present yourself as high status, you attract yourself to social climbers. If you present yourself as somebody who is, works out all the time, you're going to be attracted to somebody who wants to show you off, or maybe they work out all the time. And if any three of these women are what you want, great. But that's just not how I select women. For me, and when I work with high-end clients, I get them to hide their wealth. I get them to wear clothes that don't necessarily show off their body. And I get them to not really talk about their social status. And instead, I get them to focus on being fun to talk to and being fun to hang out with. I'll give you an example. I had a client tonight, and he is going to look for a wife. And this guy, it's kind of unique. It's an arranged marriage scenario. So his mom, he's in his 40s, by the way. His mom has decided that she's going to set him up with an arranged marriage. And this is what he wants. This is totally consensual. He's been married before. He had his own choice before. He said, basically, I failed. And he's like, now I want my mom's help. And so he's hired me to help him with this selection process. And it's great. It's a really fun client because, fun fact, the success rate of a arranged marriage and a non-arranged marriage is about the same. So they both report feelings of happiness and love. It's kind of the same. Because ultimately, he still gets the pick. Like, he's just got his mom acting as a matchmaker, right? Kind of cool. So in this scenario, he has to choose rapidly, within a very short period of time, what woman he wants. And so I said to him, a core component of making a woman obsessed with you is making sure you get the right woman in the first place. Because initially, he was going to try and show off how wealthy he is. He was going to show off like what he can provide, what their lifestyle would be like, that he can travel 6 months out the year and he doesn't have to work. And I'm like, man, if you get that, you're going to get a woman that wants you because you can help her travel, or because you can provide a lifestyle, or because you can provide servants. That's going to get you that kind of woman. What if, bear with me, what if you started playing a game of Monopoly with her and her family and your family? And he's like, Monopoly? I'm like, yeah, you're going to find out what she's like in a game. You're going to find out how she handles negotiating, how she handles frustration, social conflict. In a game, you're going to see the rivalry between her and her family. Like, is she going to gang up with her brothers against you? You're going to learn so much over a game of Monopoly. But more importantly, you won't have shown off your wealth, shown off your success, sold the lifestyle. Instead, you're going to show her, hanging out with me means I'm going to randomly pull out Monopoly. Hanging out with me means I'm going to randomly do something fun and spontaneous that gets us to interact as people. Because life isn't about the traveling or the money or the status. Life is about the moments in between. I always think about when we watch a movie, we see this idealistic life. You watch the Kardashians, right? You see their idealistic life. What you don't see is what goes on in between when the camera's looking at them. When you watch a montage of Rocky, getting ready to be amazing at boxing, You don't watch all the time he has to eat tons of protein and force it down, and then he ends up sitting on the toilet for ages because he ate too much protein, right? They don't put that in the movie. But it's the reality of anyone who's trained hard for a fighting event knows that that's just what happens. And but we don't see that, and so we have this glamorous idea. So if you really want to get a woman obsessed with you, the key is to show her what life with you is really, really like. The selection of the right person is more important than anything. The secondary component to that, to actually make her obsessed, is to, as fast as possible, get her to realize that she has more in common with you than anyone else. Almost like the universe has brought you guys together. There's this weird phrase, opposites attract. It is not true. It is similarities that attract, right? That's the actual key. The more you have in common with somebody, the more likely you are to get on. Because one day, the two of them are going to be in their 80s. And when they are, they're going to be sitting around in a nursing home, or maybe at home with their servants. I don't know what they're going to do. And they're going to be like, what are we going to do? And what they're not going to say is, let's jump on a flight, or let's take the Lamborghini for a spin. What they're more likely to do is bust out Monopoly. That's far more likely. And if you go into a relationship with the end goal in mind, how we're going to spend the in-between time, you're going to have a much better interaction with somebody, and you're going to get to know them better, and that's going to get them more obsessed. Like, who's she going to remember? The 10th guy that tried to show off how much money he's got and that you can travel the world? You know, everyone can travel the world. But the guy that pulled out Monopoly, he'll be the only one. He'll be the only one that says, let's bond over a fun game. Let's get to have an argument right at the very beginning. Let's divide up the properties right now. Let's see how it goes. And that's really where obsession comes from, combined with finding in-jokes as fast as possible. If I had to make a woman obsessed with me, like right now, the goal would be to find an in-joke with her that nobody else on the planet had, so that me and her bonded deeper than anything else. So one of my favorite tricks to do is I'll take a woman to the zoo on a first date. I love it. The zoo's cheap. Every woman loves animals. I don't care how rich you are, or everyone loves the zoo. And I'll take him to the zoo, and the zoo always has, in the gift shops, fluffy animal stuffies for sale, always. And so what I do is I go to the gift shop first, and I have her pick out an animal that she thinks is cool. Not to buy, just one she thinks is cool, like the best one. And then I'll keep her occupied, get her to go and look for something, maybe buy some food that we can give the animals or something, and then I'll buy the stuffed animal. Now this is really important because I didn't buy it for her. She thought it was cool, but I bought it. But it isn't hers yet. And then we're going to go around the zoo, and I'm going to animate the animal. I'm going to make it like a puppet. I'm going to have it waving at other animals. I'm going to have it whispering in my ear and being like, hey, just so you know, he really loves your dress. And I'm going to create this creature as if it's alive. I'm going to be like, what was that? Okay, he says that he loves your dress. He really wishes you wore different shoes. It's not me. He said that. I'm so sorry. You see how it makes you laugh? That's the key, because we've got that oxytocin release. And it's cool because the monkey or the zebra or whatever it is being mean. I'm not. It's usually a monkey, by the way. Women always pick a monkey. I don't know why. and so you go around the whole thing, and monkeys are notorious for throwing poop at people. Did you know that?
It did.
Right, most women do know that. So I will absolutely buy like a chocolate treat, and then have the monkey throw chocolate treats. Yeah, I know. At the woman. And be like, just so you know, this is a form of flirting. I think he wants you to eat the poop. Now, it is chocolate. And so if a woman will come on a date and eat chocolate poop from a stuffed monkey, there is no guy in the world that has ever done this, except me. And by the end of the date, she loves this freaking monkey, but it isn't hers. I didn't buy it for her. And she knows that. But she would have had the most fun zoo trip of her life, because the monkey or the lion or whatever it is just hysterical. And at the end, I'm going to be like, wait, he wants to say something. Whisper in my ear. It's like, damn it, he wants to go home with you. Is that okay? And the woman, her eyes, sometimes they'll cry. And they'll be like, oh my God, yeah, I want the monkey. And this $12 monkey will be like the best stuffed animal she ever has. But now let's get into the real power of attraction here. Because every time she sees that monkey, she'll remember the date. But without me, the monkey isn't alive. Without me, the monkey isn't fun. Without me, the monkey isn't anything other than another stuffed animal in her room. And every time she looks at it, she'll remember the most amazing date she had with the monkey and realize, I bring it to life. I make it fun. I make it wonderful. I'm the secret sauce that makes everything great. And she'll message me, probably with a picture of the monkey. And she'll say, monkey wants you to come over. Monkey wants to go to dinner. It gives her a route to invite me to things that isn't her doing it. She can save face. And compared to me and the monkey, no guy can compare to that. Like nothing comes close to that environment. And that's how you build real obsession. But don't do that on every date you ever go on, because if you do, you will have a string of women loving you and getting really angry that you are doing the monkey date with everyone. So you got to save that for like the most special occasion where you're like, okay, this is somebody I really, really want to make this work. And that's, I always like to joke and borrow from Peter Parker, but, with great power comes great responsibility. If you're going to get really good at this, you got to pick and choose your battles. You can't do that every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
With the obsession, and when you're building that, how do you find that balance between a healthy obsession and something that can turn very toxic and manipulative?
Oh, gosh. All right. That's a good one. How do you generate obsession and make sure you avoid it becoming toxic,
Yes.
right? Mm-hmm. So one thing that really toxic guys like to do is love bombing, right? They basically put a lot of effort in the beginning of the relationship, the idea being that they can coast later on. It's a really big warning sign. I never do that. I want the reverse. I want to trigger love bombing. Like I want a woman to love bomb me at the beginning because that's a much better place to be from an attraction point of view. So I try very hard not to overdo it when I first meet somebody. And instead, I really try to encourage them to do things for me, right? That's like my goal. It becomes toxic when what you're doing is disingenuous. If what you're doing is to achieve a goal, but your goal is not clear to the other person of what you want, that's where there's an issue. So I'll give you an example. When I first meet a woman, if I connect with them, but I'm not looking for something serious, I will literally say when I first meet them, I'll be like, hey, just so you know, I want to tell you a little something about me. I think you're really hot, by the way, and would love to date you. But I think it's important you know that, when you were younger and your mum was teaching you about guys, and she said, every once in a while, you're going to get this guy, and he looks awesome. He's funny, entertaining, he's got a cool accent. And, but she said, you got to be careful of this guy because he's not looking to settle down. And he's really just looking to have some fun while he figures out what's going on in life. I'm the guy your mum warned you about. Like, I'm that guy. And I will say that to a woman right when I first meet. It has, I think, only once put somebody off. And I remember distinctly what she said, because she went, but I really like you. And I was like, yeah, but I'm not the guy you're going to settle down with. She goes, I'll try it anyway. And I'm like, look, let's find you a good man. I was like, I'm not the guy. She goes, are you sure I really like you? I'm like, I'm very sure you do not want me. Like, I'm a dick, but I'm not a fucking dick. There is a line, and I was like, and I'm not going to cross it right now. So I remember her distinctly because she just broke down and went, I'll do what you want, and I was like, oh my God. But it's really important to just be true with somebody and say, hey, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm looking for. And that truth, it doesn't turn women off. It attracts them. They go, okay, I know what I'm getting into. Actually, the mother of my kids, the first mother of my kids, when I first met her, we had that discussion. And it was so funny because she was over the house the other day and she reminded me of something. I was like, she was like, hey, I'm going to pick up the kids. I'm going to be a little bit late. Is that cool? And I was like, yeah, absolutely cool. And she goes, well, I know you've got a date. And I was like, it doesn't matter. I'll be late on the date. And she goes, see, I always said that. You're right. You're a dick, but you're not a fucking dick, right? And we laughed about it because it was the phrase that for the first 2 years of our relationship, I was using constantly because I was like, I'm not the kind of guy you should settle down with. And even when we chose to have kids, she literally, we said to each other, we'd be good co-parents. We knew we probably wouldn't end up together, but we really did want to have kids together. And I think it was a great choice. She's an amazing woman. I'm super happy that we co-parent together, and we co-parent really, really well. And this is the power of being real with somebody, because as long as you are upfront and honest and you tell somebody where you're at and where they're at, the toxicity doesn't appear, right? I always tell people that there's essentially 3 different ways to influence a situation. I have a free ebook on this subject, and it's the power of frame control. And I always explain that in my terminology, there is persuasion, manipulation, and frame control. Persuasion, let's start with manipulation. Manipulation is where I'm trying to get you to see my point of view through lying. I want you to believe what I want you to believe, and I'm lying to achieve it. That's manipulation. And it's a really horrible thing to do, and nobody should ever do that. Persuasion is where I'm trying to convince you to see my point of view, and I'm going to do it without lying. But I really want to show you my point of view. I don't really need to hear your point of view because I just want you to see things from my point of view, right? The goal is, it's like I can hear what you say, but I really want you to see my point of view. Frame control is a very different subject. Frame control, I like to think of it as window frames, and it's really inviting somebody to look through a different window. And the easiest way to do that is to look through their window first. So when we think of a frame, we're just talking about a frame of reference. And frame control is I'm just trying to control the chance that they will look through my window. Don't think of it as like, I'm going to make you do it. That's really not what it's about. It's I'm going to control my own frame, and it's okay for you to have yours, and I also have mine. And I'm not going to bend my frame or lie about it or tweak it or change it to get you to agree with me, which is where the control comes from. It's controlling myself, not controlling the other person. This is my frame. This is what I see, but I'm very willing to see yours. And I want to look at your point of view, and I want you to look at mine. And there is a real quid pro quo to when you look through somebody else's window, you put yourself in their shoes, you see their point of view, and you go, oh my God, I see this clearly. And then you bring them around and you show them your window. They're far more likely to want to look at it from your point of view, and they get it. And I think there is no better way of explaining this than with a live demonstration. So I'm going to show you something. For anyone who's watching this, we're going to tackle male horniness. And it's one of my favorite subjects, especially with a woman, because, and I think we've had this discussion before, so it's kind of going to, I'm not going to get the surprise factor from you, but still. The average man, when he describes male horniness, he's going to be like, when I get horny, I just gotta have sex, right? It's like, oh, aren't you horny too? Like, we should have sex. It's really manipulative or persuasive, right? Manipulation being like, oh no, we're not going to have sex. Oh, hey, now you're back at my place. We should totally have sex. I bought you dinner, right? The manipulation kicks in. And then for other guys, they'll be persuasive, like, oh, you look so beautiful. I could see myself spending my life with you, right? And the persuasion kicks in. Also, not really good. Frame control is totally different. It's not attractive, by the way, but it is just a way of getting a woman to understand. So, or a person. So with frame control, I'm going to look at the woman's point of view, and I'm going to be like, guys really just want sex all the time. Like, wouldn't you agree? And it's like, yeah, they do. Yeah. They really, really do. And I'm like, but I might be able to help you understand why if you're interested.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so woman says yes, and now I'm going to show them my side of the box. So I've seen their side. I've already said guys are horny all the time. Guys want sex all the time. I've seen their side of the world. They agree. I didn't give a reason for it. I didn't say women are too. There was no persuasion or manipulation, just a fact. And I say, well, if you're open to it, I'll try and explain it to you. What's the longest you can hold back peeing?
Few hours, if that.
A few hours, if that. Right. And if your bladder builds up, it starts to hurt.
Yeah.
Agreed? Yeah? What would you do if you'd been holding your pee for 6 hours and then somebody came along and like slapped your bladder? How would that feel? Agitating. Would it be painful? Like a sharp pain?
Yeah.
That's blue balls. Right? Like, that's blue balls. When your testicles fill up with semen, it's got to come out. It can't just sit there for days. Like, it's got to come out. Like, I think it's like the prostate cancer board, I don't know, whatever the association is, came out and said a male needs to ejaculate 28 times in a month for a healthy prostate. That's like peeing 28 times out of the month. Like, I mean, most people pee more than once a day, but you get the idea. It's got to come out. A wet dream is when a guy will ejaculate in his sleep. That's because he's held it in so long that his body is like, this gotta go. Like, there's no more room, bro. Like, and then you hear about these guys that are like trying to hold it in and they're doing semen retention. I'm just like, you are not being healthy, bro. Like, that is not good for you. And so, as a woman, you can relate to that. And what I just demonstrate is frame control. It's where I'm holding my frame. And I'm like, I'm not going to apologize for being male or being horny. Instead, I'm going to communicate in a way that a woman can understand. Oh my God, if you need to pee, you need to pee. In every relationship where I've shared this, the woman is like, we're going to make sure you ejaculate once a day. I'm like, thank you. Yes, we do. That is every day. If we skip 2 days, we waited too long. Like, that's every day. And when a woman understands that because it's through frame control, I'm holding my frame and I'm letting her see it, it becomes an us task. We have to do this for our health. Likewise, we've got to make sure that we've got period supplies and tampons and things that she needs, because that's also a must and has to be dealt with. And even though as a guy, I can't understand what that's like necessarily, I can totally understand the need for toilet paper when I use the restroom. So I can understand that they're going to need, products to aid in the situation and maintenance of that. And you have to take that into consideration. So yeah, so that's frame control. And it's a really, I think, healthy way of communicating different viewpoints and getting someone to see your side of the story without being persuasive, manipulated. And I believe, in my opinion at least, that really reduces toxicity, because it means we can approach something together and attack the task as opposed to be in conflict.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Thanks.
So what if you have that conversation, but the woman just happens to get really strong feelings for you, stronger than you necessarily want to take on at that time? How do you handle a situation like that?
So, all right, so you're talking to a woman and she gets really strong feelings and you aren't ready for it. That's fair? In a situation like this, you've really got to think about, how did we get here? And oftentimes you'll realize that you probably promised too much, did too much. It's actually a very common thing for guys to want to get a woman really into them, and then the guy pulls back. It's almost like a validation thing. They're like, I just want to prove I can get her, and now I know I can get her, I'm going to move on. And that's really toxic. And it's a very natural guy thing to do, which I think guys should learn how to not do that. I think it's really important. Because women, takes a while to get into a guy, but once they're in, they're in. And that's when the guy's like, okay, got it, moving on. So I do want to acknowledge that most guys, it's probably one of the biggest things I spend my time doing with students is getting them to stop doing that. But if you've done it by accident, let's just say you genuinely didn't mean this to happen, the only thing to do is to really set strong boundaries about interactions. So, for example, don't meet up more than once a week. Don't be available more than that. And what will happen is, if you stick to, I'm only available once a week, I only do phone calls twice a week, and you stick to it rigidly, there is no improvement, it never gets better. A woman will try to get you to put more time in. She'll say, I wish we spoke more. Or she'll be like, hey, can you come over right now? I'm really horny. She'll do whatever she can to try and get more out of you. And as a guy, it's really important to be like, hey, babe, I'm really only available on that one day. And that is, once again, holding your frame. You're like, this is who I am, and this is all I've got available for you. And that will actually keep the relationship going the longest amount of time, and without it getting too committed, without it moving on. But don't ever falsely promise. Don't be like, maybe one day I'll change. Maybe one day I'll change is the same as saying, one day I'll change if you wait long enough, to a woman at least, or to the average person, right? That goes for guys too. So it's so much better to just be like I said, I'm not ready to settle down. I don't know if I ever will be, and I'm not 100% sure that you and I are a match. You can say that to someone. Is it going to hurt them? Yeah, but nowhere near as badly as making them think everything's good and having them start altering their life for you, and then you're like, actually, I don't really want you. And that's the key. Like, the key is to make sure that you really just hold that boundary and you go, this is how it is. And sometimes that means you're sacrificing intimacy, especially when you're lonely, right? If you're a guy and you're lonely and you've had a bad day and you only see this woman twice a week on a Saturday and a Tuesday, and she calls you on a Thursday, the temptation to hang out with her is going to be really high. But now you're hanging out with her 3 nights a week, it's going to be really hard to go back to 2 nights a week. And you can't be like, that was a one-off. It's like, no, you used her when you needed her. Emphasis on the word used. You used her. And now there has to be a repercussion to that. And that repercussion is you got to be available for that third day a week. And before you know it, you're in that slippery slope. And you're like, how did I get in this relationship? So it's better if you just right from the beginning say, this is it. This is who I am. Know your boundaries. Like my rule is when I first meet a woman, I only hang out once a week max. Max. To hang out with a woman a second time a week is a big deal. And that's because I'm busy. I've got a life. Like I've got Dungeons and Dragons on Sunday night. I've got no time for no new woman, right? You know what I mean? Like my day is organized, but I've always got time for one new woman at least because I've got one night dedicated that is available to meet new people. And if she's really cool, she'll get that night. I won't meet anyone else. That's my new woman. And obviously I'm poly, so like I've got that one night available, Thursdays, in case anyone cares. If you're a beautiful woman, you're interested. And I'm sure Thursdays is where it is. And that night I always keep available. But if I meet someone really cool and I end up seeing her every single Thursday, I will typically then add an extra night, and then I'll try and move her off of Thursday so I can keep Thursday available for the next new person. And then if I can make that happen, I might give her a second night or might involve her more in my life. She might get invited to Dungeons & Dragons, who knows. And then I've still got that day available that I can bring new people in.